So this video was to show the importance of intelligence and security. We have been actually dealing with a lot of security controls within the organization while we deploy our security architectures. Typically our approach is more control driven, that we try to see how many controls of security we have actually deployed in the infrastructure. But the point here is that if these controls will not be integrated together and we do not get that one intelligent incident or event in time, this entire investment which we have been doing goes in vain, because it takes only one incident to breach the network. So the focus is, while we focus a lot of things on the security controls, comparing different controls together, that what all different throughputs and stuff like that, but actual security architecture design should actually worry more about or spend more time about finding out how will I get that event or incident. How can my security deployment moves more closer to the business so that I can get the real incident which is important for my organization and not actually getting the heaps of appliances on my network. So if you see, some of the important thing we all know in security, what we're dealing with is threats, infrastructure, people, and data information. So these are the four facets of any organization today, whether it is SMB or an enterprise class. We are typically dealing with the threats of the infrastructure or application or whatever we have, and we are dealing with the infrastructure, okay, in itself, which is actually holding all the information in terms. Then the data which is lying on these systems, and we use it for our business purposes. And finally, the people who are actually interacting with all this. It's very, very important that people is also part of overall security stuff. So these are four primary aspects which we are actually dealing with when it comes to security. So one by one, if you see the threats, whatever we have known till now, that is the hackers and stuff like that, motivation is for money and maybe some recognition and stuff like that. But if you see, the motivation of the hackers or threats are actually moving beyond the only which is money and stuff like that. We are seeing more and more events today are state sponsored. We know that it is the attack which is happening on our critical infrastructure, which we are seeing is happening due to a state sponsored attack. So how do you control such situation? The dynamics have changed. The threats was always complicated, they will be complicated, we will get more and more technical to complex threat, but what is making them more dangerous is the motivation behind those threats. That is the reason, one reason why we feel that we have to actually get on our toes to handle the security incidents. Then the typical infrastructure, we have all known that infrastructure are lying in confined boundaries, we all do, and we have just saw the presentation on the cloud, and this is what is actually happening. Infrastructure is moving into the cloud. So whatever traditional deployment we have in the today's network, and in confined boundaries, deploying controls in the typical our own network, when the same infrastructure will move into the cloud, the control will be a challenge, right? So this is very, very important thing, that how are you going to bring the control? What are the new security dimensions which is going to be coming in when the things will start moving into the cloud? Because we will not be doing the same thing what we are doing earlier, at least not the same way. So the typical network security administrator or a typical IT administrator, what he is doing today, he will be dealing with totally different things when he will move his infrastructure into the cloud, okay? So, and the third trend, which is information, which we all know, again lying into confined boundary, another trend which we are seeing is IT consumerization. This data which was lying into the laptops, PCs are actually going beyond laptops and PCs, going into handheld devices, it is going to palm tops. So you see that overall dimensional stuff of that, the threats, motivation are changing, the infrastructure is moving into cloud, the data which typically residing onto our closed PCs and stuff like that is moving into the different stuff. And then the people. Very, very important thing is the people dependency of user on IT is increasing multi-folds, because there was a time when we had a lot of manual system, then we became all, now even with these trends of cloud and all, and the kind of information, and we also saw in some of the videos earlier, how the users are actually becoming more and important. 1 week, whatever we had a data was so many years before required in full of lifetime, the user didn't have the data. So if user is not aware of security, how to handle such thing, if he is not security aware, the impact of he being the actual culprit or a weakest link will be much more. So early user were always a weakest link for us, but earlier the impact which was there due to they don't know certain things, and now it is actually increased multifold. And that's very, very important aspects of thing which we have to see. So these are some trends we see. We are talking about virtualization, we're talking about the cloud, we're talking about people moving on IT consumer products and stuff like that. So what are the new challenges which we are going to face? New challenges which we typically face today, any IT manager today is facing, is the opposing objectives. Now what are those opposing objectives in the life of any IT or security manager? Is that he is under tremendous pressure to reduce the cost of operations, right? This is one of the objectives that every manager is carrying, that I have to reduce the cost. Then I have to simplify the complex management framework, that whatever is a complex, I need to simplify this, right? And I need a single window for support because there's so many vendors offering so many different stuff. So what is that I am going to get, or how can I reduce this vendor management stuff? So these are the typical objectives which any IT manager today is carrying. Now if you see, while doing all this, what are they trading off when they take decisions based on these grounds? Are the performance. Now today we talk about, lot of things are we talking about, controls, multi-platform controls, where multiple controls are putting into one appliance, giving you as this thing. But what if that everything runs together? What is the actual performance you're going to get? Are you ending up using those controls, or you are only ending up buying those controls because they are the cheap? They are in the most effective cost range. So we end up buying them, but do we really implement them? Or we see in our organization? No, that's the case. We are compromising on the intelligence. On the name of simplifying the complexity, we are actually trading off the granularity. What intelligence I need, what granular information I need, I am trading off that because I want simple management. So actually, when we try to simplify the complex management, it doesn't mean that I have to actually sacrifice on the granularity of the management. So these are some of the trade-offs, and effectiveness of the control. So if I am giving you a control X, is it the effective control? Or it is just a control because my data sheet says so, that I am giving you XYZ control. It can protect you from ABC threats, but do I really be able to prevent you from those threats? What is that individual controls credibility, or in the market on IT infrastructure what is running in? So what is the result which customers are ending up in their infrastructure with, is they are having rigid systems, ineffective controls, and overload resources. And we will see in few slides later that why we are saying that these are overloaded resources and ineffective control. So if you see the second very, very important, so one was handling the counter objectives. At one side, we have to ensure that we have reduced the cost. So we take the decisions based on the cost. But when we take those decisions, we compromise on a lot of important things for the actual premise on which we are actually taking that decision to buy certain stuff. So if I'm taking a decision to buy a firewall, and that firewall I'm not able to implement because it does not suit my business requirement, then or it does not fit into the real-time business usage, then there's no use of taking firewall. End of the day, we all run with bypassing the firewall. So we can be very happy that appliance is stacked up into our racks. Now, the second very, very important thing is business-oriented policy. So today, policies within the organization is also changing. So there was a time when you used to say, okay, this IP to this IP, this port, it no more exists. With IT consumerization, people are on the different environments. They are accessing the infrastructure from different environment. They are accessing not only their infrastructure, but they are actually accessing the infrastructure onto the cloud, and so on and so forth, right? So the policies has to be attuned to the business environment, and it should be known or understood by the security manager and not only by the technical administrators under them. So that's very, very important. So that's another thing which is, then the other very, very important challenge which we are actually handling is the information heap. So we keep on putting control after control, and there are so many logs are coming, and end of the day we are in amidst of all logs without any intelligent information, as we talked about the word intelligence, right? Typical infrastructure gets hundreds of events per second. And what is that happening in that one event out of those 100 may be an attack, or maybe after 5,000 events you get one actual event which will be real attack, and you will miss that. And that's because we are all getting logs. We are more interested in logs, not the intelligence. Then real context of the business. Now, I'll give a very simple example. If today I have to send an information out to my partner or my customer, which is deemed as confidential, okay, as per my IT security people, that this is an internal data sheet, I should not be sending it to the partners, or I should not be sending it to the customers, because it is internal, it is confidential. But my business usage says that if I am participating in an RFE and customer wants that as a proof, I have to give that, right? Now I'm going against the policy. Does IT understand this business use of mine? No. Possibly they are sitting in one place only knowing the technology. They don't understand my business usage. And that's the problem. Because IT is putting up policies which is not implemented into the real-time world business usage, and hence we end up bypassing those control. Users are forced to look for alternative mechanism to go out and not use the actual methods, and that's how the threats becomes more and more increased. That is the reason why it is very, very important in new scenario to involve user, not only to inform user about security policy. And it is true. None of the security in your network can be actually 100% or close to 100% if your users are not security aware, and that's a fact today. Because if they really want to, there are 90% or 95% of data leak today happening is because security, in ignorance of the user, not because of some security threats within the infrastructure. So what is the desired objective? And I think we all will agree about this fact that the desired objective is to achieve the context, right? What is the context of the information? What is happening in what context? Then what we are actually doing is elemental information. We are more interested in getting IP addresses, we are interested in getting port numbers and reports, what ports are accessing what, but that is all elementary information. How does that impact my business? That is what we should be more interested in. How does it make any difference to a security manager that whether this port is accessed, this port is not accessed? What is more important for him, is he accessing the wrong or high risk applications or not on the internet? Because that gives him the visibility and intelligence on which he has to work on. So, and instead of controls, we are building in exceptions. So I was with one of the customers, and we were talking about the multiple people were discussing in one of the bid, and he told in the forum that, look guys, you have so many products. Can you do a survey to your customer and ask them how many of them are really using your product? Is it that you have sold and then you have slept after that? Your partners might not know what controls you are running, and you might be given an IPS with default signature set only on, it is never tuned. Or you have given a firewall with any allowed access. Just because people want to run some component, they will run, but are they really effective in the environment? Please do that survey. So that's very, very important that we should be actually, our objective is to put control into our infrastructure, not the exceptions in our network. And I will show you an example, real example. So this is a gap which we are trying to address. So let's see what Checkpoint has done in their product portfolio to actually aligning ourselves, which we've been leading this industry from last 17 years, firewall stateful inspection developed by Checkpoint, okay, is still in patent of Checkpoint, so which we have actually, we have actually created the industry. Now we are seeing how to realign this to fit into the new business hour. Today, what is the new business need? People will move into the cloud, people will virtualize. These trends are there to stay because of the very, very important thing is the cost reduction. And when it comes to cost reduction, they override a lot of other things in the interest of business, right? So so we have to realign ourselves into that approach. So what we are actually doing is realigning our policy framework which can attune to your business, involve people into security decisions, not only inform them or not involve them while doing security, so that user education and a user becomes an integral part of entire security program and not the bolt-on. That, okay, I have taken a policy, I will inform you. It should not be like that. People should be involved in the right context, in right places. And finally, the enforcement, which we already know that, yes, there are so many controls we are talking about which will come in place. And this gives the entire approach to security a three-dimensional approach. Now, it is no more a theoretical approach. We will see how we can integrate people, how we can attune policy which is more closer to business, and how we can actually bring more and more controls onto the table. So this I have already discussed. Policy should be aligned to business, people should be involved in security, and more better controls. It should not be on the name of that, okay, I give you all the controls on single appliance, doesn't mean that I don't give you effective security. If I'm giving you an IPS, is today's system. What is the IP addresses, what is the port? This is what this typical policy looks like today. Only technical people can understand. Okay? But what if we actually change this to something which is more attuned to a business? Can I tell you high risk BitTorrent application, peer-to-peer softwares? Making those policy in such a way that even the normal security manager can understand what policy is applying and how it is going to affect his business. For example, anybody can tell if it is a P2P file sharing applications, It is risky for my business, right? You don't need to know the port numbers and applications and so forth to actually attune this policy. And once you put this policy, all the application which is under this is actually blocked. So that's the way. So we will create all these policies into such a way that anybody can implement this policy, and you do not to be a really technical user to implement this policy and make these policies as close as to business possible. Then let's take people. Today what happens? You are not allowed to access this. There is no explanation, no resolution for the customer. For the end user. We just inform user, you are not authorized as per security policy. That's it. So can we actually give him an explanation that why he is not allowed, what is wrong, and can we give him the power to resolve this issue on his own? Because he understands his business context, not the IT person. Can we take his inputs? He wants to send, he wants to review, he wants to discard. Maybe he has a valid business case, and make him more accountable for what action he is taking. So once we sign it digitally that I am sending this information or I am accessing this application because I have this business case and I digitally sign it, I become more understanding, I become more obliged, I become more accountable to what action I am taking. And hence user becomes part of the security policy framework. Finally, in terms of enforcement, we all know that we talk about identity awareness, application control. These are controls which everybody talks, which we can actually offer in the control. With checkpoint, each and individual control has its own distinction and been recognized in the market. Okay, it is proven by the third parties. And it is there in the industry from long time. So this is what we are bringing onto the table. For example, IPS. Now, checkpoint IPS is the only IPS which is coming as a NSS recommended today, not certified, recommended by NSS on the multifunction platforms, beating all the dedicated IPS like Tipping Point, SourceFires, and others of the world. So that's the effectiveness you are getting. You are not taking just another UTM feature. You are taking an IPS which is comparable and competing among the best of the IPS in the world, with giving the performance and still getting the same management, simplified management and stuff like that at just an OPEX cost, not even the CAPEX cost. Checkpoint offers all the new security controls now in OPEX model to the customers. So we identity awareness, we all know that identity is not only about the username today. Identity is a combination of multiple things. It is the combination of who is accessing from which device, from which location. That is what is the integrated identity means. Kapil as a username can access it from his laptop, from his environment, can access from his laptop, from external world, can access the same information from his mobile phone. All these three identities are separate as per the security, right? We cannot only rely on the context of usernames. Because username, again, we all know social awareness problem. We know all social, social responsibility and social attacks which we've been done onto the people. And people share the password. So every identity is different. And hence my access control rules, my security rules should be adaptive to based on what kind of access profile that particular time or identity profile that particular time customer is carrying with, or that particular user is accessing information from. So it is not about number, it is about people, okay, and people can access the information from various places, okay. So this is what. Then we talk about application control, okay. These are few things which we are talking about amongst a lot of things we have. So we know that today we are using on the cloud a lot of service applications, a lot of internet applications we are going to use. We are currently also using them. How do we differentiate now this in a new business context? Because a marketing team might need a Twitter access. Maybe marketing team and an engineer also might need a Twitter access in some specific context of business, right? How that IT is going to learn that business context. So that's very, very important. So Checkpoint's application control database today is having more than 100,000 internet application out of the box available. You can simply configure those or control those on just one click. There are different categories. As you saw that BitTorrent and peer-to-peer software, high-risky application, and you can simply configure. It is the biggest database of internet application widgets available on the earth. Then we talk about finally data leakage prevention. We all know that today all of us treats data leakage prevention as some rocket science, some technical issue, where the data leakage prevention is actually a people issue. Data is getting leaked out because A, we do not know what information is confidential, what is not information, user does not know. B, even if he knows, okay, the IT is making him hindrance to use that information for the real business case. And that's how he's forced to do find some workarounds and stuff like that. So, but what is required is it's not a technology problem, it is a business problem, and we can only solve data leakage problem when we make it more sensible business-based policy, and we will see. So today, if you see, business users, when I send a data, I get an alert if it is a confidential, and I remediate, I tell the system this is my business context, and then system self-learn it for the next time, okay? And we will see. So when we actually, now we talked about identity, application, control, DLP, firewall, IPS, all that, but when you actually implement, what happens? This is what happens, and I'm sure you must all be, 2 minutes. So we all must be aware of what is actual policy, correct? So this is what is the policy today. Typical user, I say this is allowed, this is not allowed. Then policy doesn't match, because as an engineer, I am supposed to send that data sheet out because of my business problem. I have to send that for RFP submission. Then I tell it to user, to IT, please, I require this access. And after so much of time lag, IT resorted to monitor only. He said, okay, let him allow. And then it becomes an exception. And I am only one user. If there are 100 such users in my organization, IT only handles with exceptions and create exception after exception after exception. So what is the use of control, right? So what we are actually require is that when somebody sends some information out, access some application, ask the user why he is doing it. Make him more accountable, educate him at that point in time, and if he has real business case, allow him without loading the IT. At the same time, you actually control and you get all the logs and visibility what he is actually doing. So we all know about accept and drop and block. We are talking about informing the user, we are talking about asking and also limiting the user based on the justification he provides. If he says that I am going for personal purpose, he might get less bandwidth. If he going for business purpose, I am uploading some video for marketing, I might get a better bandwidth. Then finally, moving from the logs to the intelligence. So if you see checkpoint dashboard control, in one dashboard, you can get all kind of visibility and intelligence on your network. Correlated intelligence on your network. Whether it is endpoint information, data leakage information, intrusion information, virus information, everything comes on 360-degree dashboard. There is a dashboard available for administrators who can drill down into technical. There is a dashboard available for the managers and CIOs to look into the overall stuff business-wise. So you can see that different event. Geo protection. This today checkpoint, all softwares are shipped up with this protection where you get the visibility of context of which country traffic you are receiving from, which country is attacking, and you can block the countries just by the single click by saying that I want to block all traffic from Pakistan, I don't like these guys. And I am not doing any business with the Pakistan, so why the traffic should come from there? Not only incoming, bots sends traffic out. And typically that is going through all the firewalls because outside traffic is typically allowed. So in or out traffic to that particular country, we can block, and then you can create exceptions on top of it. So this is that, let's say there is a Pakistan, you are in embassy and Indian High Commission opens in Pakistan, you can allow that exceptions to those IPs to come in. Entire visibility of the context, which user, what machine, what kind of attack, target machine has what vulnerabilities, whether it is patched, not patched, all that correlated view will come to you. So you don't have to worry. If you see right click, target scan, it will tell you whether this attack which I am seeing, whether this machine is vulnerable for that on the fly. You don't need any other device for that. So in summary, what very, very important is that there are a lot of controls available on the management side, on the controls different. We all are aware of this, we have heard about this, but the idea is to integrate them together in such a way that we can actually make people, policy and controls working together in three-dimensional way. It should not be, and this is in the last slide, which really said Checkpoint is the only firewall today recognized by NSS, which is the world's most leading technical test agency, as a next generation firewall. We are the only ones right now got this status. So this is in summary that we have to change our approach. We have to go into the new way of designing security programs in our organization. It is no more a control driven that firewall, UTM, these things will not decide your security policy for next generation. What will decide your business case will decide your security policy for the next generation. And let us help you in doing that. Thank you. If you have any questions, if you have time, I can take questions. Otherwise, we are available, so you can come to our stalls and we can try answering your questions. Or in the panel discussions.